What is currently happening, programs? Welcome to The Grid, where I'll be bringing you this week's news in VR. It's Friday the 17th of March 2017, and all I can say this week is get scared, get sued, and get more of all the things. We've got Resident Evil 7 and other horror games now working in VR on the Rift, mostly. We've got HTC taking a swing at Oculus, another company also taking a swing at Oculus, Leap Motion, Obduction, and space updates, and more. Today, I'm going to cover off the main events to keep you in the loop. So stay locked, crush that like button, enjoy, and welcome to The Grid. What is currently happening, YouTube? Facepalm here, your friend in Oz and NZ, bringing you reviews, tutorials, and game clips, minus the shit. You can follow me on Twitter at Facepalm with a 1, not an L. As for here on YouTube, if you like what you find, then like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to bring your game face. Let's get it done. So for those of you, like me, who are chomping at the bit to see Resident Evil 7 in VR on the PC, you'll be happy to know we came a step closer this week to a temporary solution until the official PC VR release. Vorpx, which is an injector software that takes existing games and forces you into that game, now supports Resident Evil 7 with the release of Vorpx 17.2.0. It's crucial to keep in mind here that Vorpx will get you mixed results depending on the game. For some games like OUTLAST or Borderlands 2, it works quite well. For other games, not so much. I generally compare Vorpx to a cam rip of a movie from a torrent site, where it's essentially the same product, but the quality that helps make that game or movie enjoyable just isn't quite there. Some people can see past that loss in quality, but me, I don't really do cam rips, as I'd much prefer to wait the extra couple of months for the full release on Blu-ray. And it's the same for me with Vorpx. If a game is scheduled for a full VR release, then I'd much rather wait for that. If, however, it's looking like a game is never going to receive native VR support, and I really just have to play that game in VR, then Vorpx is really the best option. I did try the Vorpx update with Resident Evil 7, and while I did find it worked okay and was kinda cool, I think I'd still rather hold out for the official VR implementation early next year. In addition, 2 other horror games of note have released this week on the Rift. Paranormal Activity VR, which you may remember from the hilarious reaction video doing the rounds last year, released on Steam Early Access on Tuesday, though not without its flaws for Rift users. I saw a couple of tracking issues as well as a few other bugs, but it was still fun in its own kind of way. Also, Affected the Manor has also finally made the move from Gear VR to a full Rift release when it showed up on the Oculus store this week. This game is a different experience to the Gear VR version though, so if you've played the version on Gear VR, then give this a go anyways, as there is enough new content there to make it worth the purchase, and there will be more content coming. The game arrives with full touch support and the expected pants-shitting, dare-inducing, creepy as fuck dark atmospheres. And if you like being an absolute prick to your mates, then strap them into this, tell them everything is okay and they're in good hands, then fuck off, lock them in the room, and kill the lights from the fuse box. Happy days. I gave this game a burn, and this here is the gist of the first couple of hours. Yeah. And in other news, another shot at the Oculus crown has been taken by a company called Total Recall Technologies when they tried to sue Oculus recently, claiming that Palmer Luckey violated a confidentiality agreement between the two parties. But late last week, a California judge dismissed the whole thing with prejudice. And if you don't know what with prejudice means, it prevents the same case being tried again. So that means that's that. Unlucky, if you're Total Recall Technologies. And if you're thinking, fuck, everyone wants to sue Oculus, keep in mind, for big companies, getting sued is a common occurrence, and in fact, usually companies of this size constantly have ongoing cases being tried in court. Essentially, once your pie is big enough, everyone will want a piece, and Oculus is no exception. And while it may not be going to court, the Vice President of Global VR Content at HTC, Joel Breton, spoke to GameSpot this week and has said that the funding Oculus is providing developers to create quality content games that are Oculus exclusive, like Robo Recall, is hampering developers' ability to create large communities by blocking them out from other platforms. And he also said that Oculus exclusivity in exchange for this massive funding is problematic for developers in the long term as they can't develop relative to the size of the market, and that Oculus is putting more cash into the market than the market or the developers can recoup. He continued on to say that in future, studios were gonna struggle because they're not able to develop at the size and scope that the market is at. Joel cited Alchemy Labs' Job Simulator, which is a great game, as a shining example of how to bring a game to multiple platforms, and that the game is a great example of how the team developed to a budget and saw returns that made sense for today's market. Essentially, he's saying that Oculus is A, limiting the game's potential success by being exclusive, and B, setting the bar too high at this early stage for people's expectations around what a VR game should look like. And while I get where he is coming from on B, because yeah, maybe once the Oculus funding dries up and if VR hasn't gone mainstream enough by that point for big enough audiences to start dropping mass cash on games so that game studios can see a return on their initial investment, this could be a problem. But as far as A goes, if I paid millions for a game to be then released for free, fucking oath, I'd make that shit exclusive to my platform. And I don't give a fuck what HT says. It's not exclusive forever. Sony does it all the time. Resident Evil. Don't get me wrong, I like to share personally, but from a business perspective, why would a company drop millions on a project and then make it available for free on a direct competitor's headset? HTC. And even with that aside, HTC are backing up their comments by releasing Arcade Saga on PSVR, which includes brick breaking and bow and arrow. Well, fuck me. Yeah, that'll get everyone I know interested in VR for sure. Personally, my friends who I've showed Robo Recall to are now seriously interested in buying a VR headset, and a couple of them have bought PSVRs just for Resident Evil VR. Do you know how many of them would turn around and buy a VR headset of any kind after playing Arcade Saga? Fuck all. Maybe one, which is fuck all. So yeah, there's that. In saying all of that though, it's all anyone's guess how this is all going to pan out, and so it's really just opinion and guesswork at this stage, and there are many more factors involved than what could be covered in just this video. I just thought it was funny that HTC is pulling the exclusive is bad card again, when Steam, which is run by Valve, who are partners with HTC on the Vive, is in the business of selling games and already has an established user base, so it's in Valve's best interest for games to be open to all. Whereas for Oculus to survive, the headsets don't make much money for the company, and so they need to see game sales directly from the Oculus store, which doesn't have an established user base, in order for Oculus to survive. Leap Motion, which you may remember from the block demos, has been seen integrated into Qualcomm's new reference design VR headset at GDC, and it now has an increased 180-degree field of view. Leap Motion essentially maps your actual hands and shows them in VR using a sensor that is designed to sit on your desktop, but most of us ended up sticking to the front of our Rifts. I was absolutely blown away last year when I got my hands on one, because as opposed to touch controllers where, yeah, I can see my hands in VR, but my mind knows I'm holding controllers, and it feels like I'm holding controllers, where Leap Motion is actually your hands mapped and displayed in real time in VR, right where they should be. And the benefit of this is an unshakable immersion, because as far as my mind knows, they are my hands, and even when I try to convince my brain otherwise, my brain is like, shut up brain, I don't know no fake hands. Needless to say, I love this method of tracking. Not ideal for gaming because games generally need more input options like buttons, but great for social experiences like alt space and big screen. The only problem with the original Leap Motion was the field of view, which was quite narrow, which meant that if you turned your head away, your hands would cease to interact with the environment. Seeing Leap Motion purpose-built for a mobile headset like Qualcomm's, and with an increased field of view, in addition to software tweaks that allow your virtual hands to have an impact on the environment even when you turn your head away, gives me high hopes for the tech and its future implementation with mobile VR, and that gets me excited. Speaking of using your hands in VR, following regular updates since its release last year, Obduction will be getting the touch controller implementation we've all been waiting for. Well, those of us that own touch, that is. The update is scheduled to hit on March 22nd on the Steam store, so next week. week and will be a free update for existing Obduction owners. If you don't own Obduction already and you previously like having your mind fucked and then rewarded repetitively by absolutely stellar games like Myst or Riven, then you can pick up Obduction on the Oculus Store for $29.99 US. Apparently over 200,000 fans of the game on Steam have Obduction on their wishlist, and so it seems a lot of people will be happy with the update. Rand Miller, the CEO of Cyan, who made Obduction, Myst and Riven, also mentioned that Cyan is a VR-centric studio, which I didn't know, as they released Obduction first, then released it for VR second. I love hearing this type of talk, especially from a game studio of this caliber, as it outlines their long-term investment in the technology, which is obviously good for us all. Also, Mission ISS was released late last week, which is a free download from the Oculus Store and takes you straight up to the International Space Station. This experience is a must try, 1, because it's free, 2, because it's in space, and D, because it's fucking good. You'll navigate through the space station using the same movement mechanic that you'll see in the upcoming Lone Echo game by Ready at Dawn Studios, where you grab onto objects and pull yourself through the zero gravity environment. You'll come across little bits of pictures and video information, and you'll be asked to navigate a giant mechanic docking arm and also head outside the station to investigate a mechanical fault. The immersion is sky high, and all in all, it's a great short experience, so if you haven't tried it, then try it out. And finally, Oculus has released the CAD files for the touch controllers, so someone can make me a two-handed assault rifle for their game that the touch controllers just click into. Copyright 2017, thanks. And Sony has released a VR experience to support their movie Passengers, which looks quite good and makes a great tie-in in a short 20 or 30 minute format. Also, Nvidia has released FCAT VR, which is a free to download software that allows you to graph your graphics card's performance in VR. This is good in particular because it takes into account things like ASW and the like, so give it a shot if you want to know what's what. And that's this week in VR on the Grid. If you have more you would like to add, then hit me up in the comments below and let's discuss. And if you like this video, then crush that like button, subscribe if you want to see more content, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace! Thanks for watching today's video. Just remember you can follow me on Twitter at facepalm with a 1, not an L. As for here on YouTube, if you like what you find, then like, comment and subscribe. But don't forget to bring your game face. Facepalm out.